Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Craig Blanchette, and I'm the lifestyle coach. I'm also a health coach, and it's my privilege to bring you this meeting this morning. This is part of the series, Crave Optimal Health series, where we're going through Dr. A's Habits of Health book. Today, we're actually going to be going through Chapter 4, and the title of that chapter is It's All About Choice. And we're going to have Alex McMillan actually walk us through the highlights of that shortly. But one of the things I wanted to announce to you is if you are watching this live, you can go to your favorite podcast player or iTunes, and you can actually search for Crave Optimal Health. So I've changed the name of the podcast, Crave Optimal Health, and you'll be able to pull up for the next 26 weeks, we're going to be having one a week that will be going through Dr. A's Habits of Health. And then if you are listening to this on the Crave Optimal Health podcast, you can join us live Friday mornings at 9 a.m. And that's Pacific. What you do is you pull up your web browser, go to Zoom, like Zoom, ZOOM.us. That's a little bit different. Normally it's .com. But this is zoom.us. And then the meeting ID. Are you ready for it? It's 503-974-1671. And that will pop you into our meeting, and you'll be able to listen in live and interact with a bunch of other people that are probably just like you. They're not as healthy as they want to be, and we're working on it together. So it's my privilege to introduce Alex McMillan, not introduce, but welcome him. Alex has been coaching for at least 4 years, probably more like 5. And he's an incredible health coach and going to be talking us through Chapter 4 today and leading us through the discussion. So welcome, Mr. McMillan.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you, Craig. And you didn't want to date yourself because it's been 6 years, man.
I said at least. It's been at least 1 year.
Exactly. You're trying to keep yourself young. It's kind of like when you name your kids, you don't want to say how old they are because it kind of puts you, right?
At least 5 years old.
That's right. Exactly. You've gotten so old, you lost all your color. Now you're black and white only.
It's an artistic.
I know, it's a style. It's all right. Just wanted to call it out there, man.
My beard is, peppered, so I figured white and black are the only colors I need.
Exactly. Well, I hope you guys are really excited to hear this content today. And if you're not, you're going to be after we get into it. I'm going to encourage you just for a moment to get your headspace right here. And I understand if you have to be productive somewhere else because you've got another career or some other responsibilities, by all means, just take in as much as you can. But listen back to this recording and do some of the work. So I'm going to encourage everyone else to grab a piece of paper or your journal or whatever it is you use to take notes on. And this is going to be a workshop that we're going to do here. And it's going to lead you back to the Chapter 4 of the Habits of Health book. And there's a lesson. Now I'm going to reveal something here as I go off camera and come back on. There's this thing right here. And these are called feet. Okay, you don't need them to move. Craig's proved that. See, I'm keeping up with your Craig jokes. But they are nice it's nice to be able to be mobile. And why I want to highlight mobility is because a lot of times information put in our head that we don't use or implement or apply becomes frustration. Have you ever had it where you gain new knowledge and because you weren't taking action, it just felt like another thing in your life, right? And stepping and acting is the thing that resolves that tension and actually allows you to move forward. So putting tension or getting information is like putting tension in your mind. Acting on that information is what propels you to release that tension. Take a deep breath in right now. Hold that breath. It's like tension. Now let it go. Right? So inspiration without execution, inspiration without action actually really can cause a lot of tension. So that actually can become negative tension. So we want to use this tension that we're going to get today and this. So this workbook, why I talked about this is because there's actually a lesson that corresponds with this chapter And it really is amazing. It's kind of a combination of lesson number 5 and lesson number 6 in there. But it's really, really important. Those lessons will lead you to which chapters to read when you go into that right there. So lesson number 6 is really the main lesson in this workbook. Okay. So what I'm going to reveal today is a couple things that hopefully get you hungry to want to work out chapter 4 in the Habits of Health book in your life, and you can do that by using lesson 6. So let's start. What is this all about? So health is about a choice. It's about a choice we can make and a decision we can make behind that choice. And what Dr. Ray really does a great job of uncovering is most people never really make the choice to be healthy. Instead, they're stuck with this desire to get out of pain or solve a problem. And they want to lose weight. That's the problem. I want to I've got pre-diabetic or I'm diabetic and I want to take care of my diabetes. That's the problem. I want to lower my blood sugar. That's the problem. But the flip of that is he goes into making the shift to actually naming what it is that you want and continuing to repeat that not only in your head but on paper so that you're reframed to that thinking place, which is huge. So let's just look at the first opening sentence that he says at the very bottom of that first paragraph there. He says, health is about the fundamental choice.
What page are we on there?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on page 28 of the Habits of Health book, this book here.
Great.
And we're in the first paragraph. At the very bottom, there's a little hyphen, and it says fundamental choice. It's important to make fundamental choice. It's what organizational consultant Robert Fritz calls the choice upon which all other choices rest. So fundamental is like a foundation. It's like at the bedrock, right? And we want to make a fundamental choice. A fundamental choice for what? And then in the place where it says fundamental choice right underneath there, he's got this in italics. It's our choice to be free and healthy. It's what we're willing to fight for. See, when you make a fundamental choice, your action level, your ability to have motivation and drive goes really up. So if you made a fundamental choice as a parent to protect your kids, you'll probably do some pretty miraculous things throughout your life that you would never have had the motivation for had you not made that fundamental choice to be a protective parent. Does that connect? So as an example, some people would try and avoid fire. Some people would try and avoid harm's way or avoid conflict. But for your kids, you would walk through a fire. For your kids, you would go into some conflicting situations to fight forward. Well, if a person looks at the reason of optimal health, we're spending the most time here because this is going to be the horsepower to do all the little millimeters of work that we're going to talk about later that come with this fundamental choice. But go to the bottom of this chapter where it says, not the bottom of the chapter, the bottom of page 28 where it says how to make a fundamental choice. So this is the how to section. Oh, Craig, you highlight master. All right, I love it. So right there it says, right now, whatever your circumstances may be, you can make a profound fundamental choice for optimal health. Begin by asking yourself this question: do I want to be optimally healthy? Notice that I didn't say, is it possible to be optimally healthy? So we're going to go ahead and off this page now. So what we want to look at is you're asking yourself the question and deciding, I want that. Well, what is this word optimal health? That might be vague in some people's mind, right? So optimal is the best version of you that you can be. Some people might go, well, I only have one leg, or I have no legs, or I have this diabetes type 1, or I have this this autoimmune type disorder, or I've got something. And well, you can still be optimal. And that's the one thing we want to break through is it's about being the best version that you can potentially be. That is paramount in this looking at this. So as we accept that and say, I can be as responsible as possible, I'm going to choose this, we can then fast track to the next page on page 29, go down after the first big long paragraph, and it says primary choice for optimal health. So we're going to make some primary choices for optimal health. Now that you've made health your fundamental choice, it's our job to bring into being it into being. And so Dr. A is going to guide us at this point in time on how to make that happen. The very last paragraph at the very bottom there, it says, in the previous chapter, I described a new way of looking at health rather than thinking of issues such as your weight, your blood pressure, and your problems that you want to solve. Now, this is important. Your brain is going to want to switch back to thinking you're doing portion control meal replacements, or you're doing exercise, or you're doing the second the choices that you're making to allow your fundamental choice to make. But you're not. You're doing optimal health. You're living your amazing, healthy life that is free in your body, your mind, your finances, right? You're free in your relationships. I want to be optimal in all areas of my life. So therefore, because of that, I choose to maximize my body. I choose to maximize my finances, right? So what's the purpose is looking at that optimal health and then going into the priorities. So what I like to look at these is these fundamental, these primary choices are like the prioritization. I'm going to prioritize these things so that I can achieve optimal health. Okay, so looking here at page number 30, we want to start thinking of that green box as behaviors that we want to create, not just things we're trying to do. Because behaviors are something that are like habits. You know, they kind of are the thing that we go to as the way we behave and we act. And so these are things we want to think about putting into our life intentionally, and then we're going to let them operate. We're going to operate in them to create optimal health. So he has identified the green box of healthy eating, including the nutrients that you need, the healthy weight, normal waist size, an active lifestyle, recuperative sleep, relaxation, microenvironment of health. That's like a bubble around you that protects you from some of the noise outside or the toxins outside, because you're so healthy. Your immune system, the way you think, is so healthy. Even though circumstances around you are trying to rain down upon you dis-ease and disease, right? Destruction and discomfort, you've got a microbubble because of these behavioral habits. I mean, who would want that? Right? And again, you're seeing that there. It's the microenvironment, so a little protective bubble. Okay, well-being, including social activities, limited stress, sense of purpose, meaning, spiritual health, and personal fulfillment. I love that Dr. A took the time to capture that, because it's so much of who we are is the being essence of who we are. We're not just health, or we're not just our recuperative sleep, but who we are. And then having a nice community. So going to the identifying the primary choices here on the bottom of that page, he gives us an action. And this is your first action. Well, it's your second action, because your first one was making that decision to choose optimal health. So on page 30, here's the part where you start writing on your blank piece of paper. This is right above that, Craig, on page 30. You're going to go to halfway down where it says, for now, just spend some time with a blank piece of paper. That's where we're at, in the middle of that paragraph that's in the middle of the screen. Yeah, right around there. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down the foundational choices and behaviors that you're going to put in there, and really understand we're going to work on them at the very bottom where it says number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you want to form first the mental. So he says, I want you to stop for a moment and form the thinking or the mental side of what this is going to look like. So you're going to put a picture of what it means to have a healthier nutrition state. So picture yourself in your mind. Everybody, just for a moment, we're going to pause. I want you to either leave your eyes open or close them, whatever allows you to visualize better. And I want you to picture yourself putting amazing fuel into your body. And that fuel giving energy, vitality, nutrition, bringing wholeness to your cells, taking inflammatory processes that were literally leading to destruction and removing them, and better yet, creating a healthy cell that knows how to duplicate and replicate properly. That's what food does for you. That's what healthy fuel and water nutrients do. Picture that coming in. And every time you make the choice to put healthy fuel into yourself, you are doing that for you. You're allowing your body to return into that state of wholeness and well-being. And in fact, maybe some of the other choices that were being made were disrupting your body's natural ability to want to be healing. And now you're choosing to allow it to do that. Okay, so now that you visualize your body becoming whole and yourself taking in these actions and making these choices, you can now move into that place of saying, I'm going to choose that. So pausing for a moment, you see the difference between saying, oh, I'm going to get healthy and eat some healthy foods and all that? Now you're actually taking the time, breathing, and intentionalizing it. Well, you can do that with each of the areas on that green box that we were talking about, which are the foundations of health. I'm not going to take the time to do all that right now, but your workbook in that lesson number 6 actually has you work that out, which is really cool. That's the place where you give yourself 30 minutes to 45 minutes to make this real. Now I have a challenge for you, because remember we said it's one thing to inspire, take a breath in, get knowledge, get information, but unless you take action, you're going to feel that tension and it's just going to become there. How many people have heard this stuff but not acted on it? And you struggle with it over and over and over again because you didn't do the work to slow down for a moment and make it real. That's really where I want to go. So finishing up lesson or the 4, we're going to move over to page, well, not quite finished, we're getting close to finish, page 31, where it says describing your current reality. This is your next action. What you're going to do now is on your piece of paper is you're going to, at the very bottom of it, you're going to write down, what does life look like now? What's the current reality? So now that I know my top of my paper, I've made the decision to make optimal health. I want that. And then I've decided what that's going to look like is having healthy fuel and having healthy movement habits and, you know, a healthy well-being environment for myself and all that stuff we talked about right underneath that title. At the very bottom, this is where you're at now on your map, is your current position, your current reality. And I like how, I'm not sure if it was Robert Fritz who created this structural tension or structural dynamics process. I don't think he created structural tension, but structural dynamics process, or Dr. Anderson, another great leader. I'm not sure which one of them said this, but they said this, current reality is an acquired taste. What does that mean? Facing the truth about the way you think currently, or the actions and behaviors that you have, or your current state of health, or where your current BMI or weight is, or blood pressure is, can really be harsh, bitter, and it could take some time for that to sit well on the palate. And it may never really, but eventually you actually will like current reality because it tells you the truth of where you're at, so that you know what the next step is to move forward. So we want to remove the la, 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 la. All right, and then finalizing here, we make, this is on the last page here, we'll get some group interaction in just a moment. On page 32, it says what we're going to do is decide between current reality of where we're at, and then we at the top of the page, we have optimal health. In the middle of the page, I'm going to share my screen for just a moment, Craig. Let me see here. We're going to create the action steps that actually allow us to move forward. So current reality at the bottom, goal and vision at the top, and then these are going to be the choices on these lines here that we're going to make to act. That's the expiration. You took the inhalation, right? You got this idea and this vision. Now you're going to take the actions and let it go. Pull back on the bow and arrow. That's the tension. And then the action is to let it go and release that to move forward. All right, off the video just for a moment here. I guess it's me. So what I want to do is get some discussion on this, and I've got a couple points to make within the discussion. So I guess, are there any other comments or highlights or things that you were inspired by or that you've seen?
One of the things I see, Alex, is, or a question I have is that who here has taken the time to actually, or maybe if you have never written down a structural tension chart, why don't you, raise your hand? Because the reality is that so this is kind of a great concept, so you can learn it or read it and then just move past. There's anybody here that's never actually written one down? Anybody? Yeah, Robin, great. Yeah, it's what I find about this particular thing is when we write it down, it somehow changes it for us. And so if you've never done it, I think that's a great thing, because when you do it, you're going to get this like value that you haven't received yet.
Hey, I wanted to just jump in. I was reading this chapter on my way into work, and I have never done the tensions chart, but page 34 really jumped out at me, because I don't think I ever caught the fact that you have the action steps, the boxes on the sides between your primary choice and your current reality. And to actually do that and actually specifically say how you believe you can do it was a kind of an aha moment for me. It's definitely something I'm going to do. So just wanted to throw that out there.
And I just wanted to say that last night we were having a call with Santiago for our community, and we're talking about awareness. And this really hits home here, that this is an awareness that we try to sometimes put out of our minds, that our current reality, we just kind of skim over that. So I think it's very important to be aware of your current reality.
Mm.
Yeah, I have a comment on structural tension. One of the ways that helped me, sometimes there's these concepts and they're so abstract that I have a hard time sort of tying it down. Like, how does this relate to me? And somebody explained this. They said, imagine you're going to have a birthday party for somebody in your family. And that birthday party is going to be May 1st, for example. So that desired outcome is, well, the fundamental choice in a birthday party is to have your child, or whoever you're celebrating their birthday, have them feel special, have them make sure they know they're valued, and to make some good memories. That's probably kind of the big fundamental, choice there. And then the primary choice, the thing that you want, is going to be birthday party on May 1st, right? Lots of people there, that kind of thing, fun times. And current reality is today's date, right? That's current reality. And maybe you haven't even sent out, let's say it's January 26th. So we've got a few months to go. And so what's done current reality is, I know when the birthday is. I've got 3 or 4 months to go. Current reality is that. I haven't, bought any presents. I haven't invited anybody, whatever your current reality is. And then your steps that you would fill in. And I know that if you've ever planned a birthday party, you know what's going to happen. You're not going to clean your house tomorrow for the birthday party. You might clean it tomorrow, but not for the birthday party. You're going to wait until the day before or something. You're not buying, presents or something, or you might be buying presents in a week or two. You might want to get invitations out sooner than later. So you have all these things that need to happen, and then you have the sort of the organization of what needs to happen this week, what needs to happen next month, and as you get closer to the event, you can do things down the road. So that's a kind of a rough framework that gives you context for the content of structural tension. And I believe that every one of us does this. If you've ever done anything, planned a vacation, you actually use structural tension, but you may not know it. And so when you're aware of it, you can employ this tool to get additional things done and provide structure so you start achieving those dreams that you want, the hard ones.
I think Kim you had something you wanted to say too.
Yeah, well, I think it definitely relates to what you were just saying, Craig. I think I guess I just want to bring in the power of community in this process too, because I noticed Barbara's comment in the chat, like staying motivated to do the actions once you have even identified them. And I know even for myself, depending, birthday party is a great example because we know, most of us know what's involved in that. And yet sometimes when we're trying to accomplish something new, we may not even realize the different steps that go into it, or we may have a very limited understanding. And I can remember, I've done the structural tension before, and I had a conversation with Alex, and it just kind of working backwards, it kind of opened my eyes up to, a challenge that I was having, and he said, well, what would you need to be able to do that? And it took a lot of thought because some of those things were newer to me. And it's like, well, what are the steps in that? Would you like some help? Maybe I can help identify some of those steps for you. And sometimes, especially in this particular situation, I think it was, for me to reach out and help develop new coaches. I think that it just seemed like the process should have been simpler. Like, I'm in connection with these people, do this and that. But by breaking down the steps, it let me show I was trying to rush my relationships to get to this point to accomplish my goal. And by breaking down those individual steps, it suddenly made me realize that this is a little bit more detailed process than I thought, that I really, kind of processed. And it's not that I am doing anything wrong, but boy, if I can acknowledge these smaller steps in between, this is actually going to be successful. I think that's where sometimes our clients, maybe it's just about the meals and eating the meals and stuff. It just doesn't go to the level that we want it to go to. I hope that makes sense
It does. And just from a visual standpoint, look at it as rungs on a ladder as well. And you want to get to this top place, which is the new platform, and you're at this current reality. Well, you need to grab this rung first before you can grab the fifth rung up, right? And sometimes we go for the fifth rung because we don't know about the other rungs in between, right? And we fail. Some people are actually maybe Olympic athletes who can jump to the fifth rung, but maybe they have the relationship already established, and that's why they were able to go there. So we've got to, I think to sum this up, if you look at page 32, after he talks about secondary choices in the small disciplines, this is a perfect tie-in, Kim, that it takes to go there. Dr. A goes into this story, and it's a phenomenal story. This is a true experience where Dr. Anderson is on this golf course with a friend of his, and they're hitting golf balls, and they look over and they see Jack Nicklaus and Greg Norman, who are like, if you don't know who those are, they're like the icons of golf before Tiger ever was born. And they are hitting these golf balls, starting to warm up at the same time as Dr. Anderson and his partner are. And they see that the first few shots these guys take this is like they're driving the ball, and the first few shots from way far away are landing within just feet of the pin of where they're trying to hit. And Dr. A looks over his friend and goes, man, how lucky those guys are to be able to hit the ball like that. And then, so Dr. A and his buddy play a whole round of golf, like 3-4 hours. And they come back to where they started, and there's there's Greg Norman, Jack Nicklaus, still hitting balls to that same pin. And he goes, oh, I guess that's not luck. That's practice for hours. And sometimes we forget the discipline and the little steps that someone's going to make. And if we can teach that to our clients, but the only reason someone's going to do that, though, why would I want to spend hours doing that? Because the reason for optimal health, the fundamental choice or decision, is worth it. Like Craig said, it's worth all the steps of planning for my child's birthday party to help them feel intrinsically worthy and special, that they are loved and cared about, right? And you made that decision. So powerful representation that we take the actual steps and we find joy in the journey and connect every little choice. Help your clients and help yourself connect every choice that you're making to the why, the reason you're doing it.
Alex, so what a great topic. If you think about this entire Habits of Health book, this particular chapter, if you miss this chapter, the rest of it doesn't have context. It's like you have a hard time getting traction if you think, oh, let's just get to the exercise. Oh, let's just get to the doing. And you miss that fundamental, that time that you spend that focus in your brain on that fundamental. Why do I really want optimal health? Why is that important to me? And you think about this too. You get the pain of just wanting to get away from something, and you'll do that. You'll get motivated, but then you'll get stuck without this process in your life because you haven't spent time for that thing, that place you want to go to pull you. It's got no pulling power because you haven't. It's like those guys playing golf. You haven't spent enough time practicing moving towards what you want, focusing, letting that get some traction in your life. So thank you so much for being amazingly prepared and walking us through this vital lesson in such a clear way. Thank you, all the rest of you that joined us today as well, and all the participation. Great job.
I just wanted to share, I put the link, if you didn't already see it, to the structural tension chart in the chat. So look up, it says metafastmedia.com and then /TSFL, you'll see that. And that's the chart that I referenced as well.
The structural tension chart, yeah. And by the way, one of the things I tell, I've had some people get stuck. I want to just talk about that just for a second. Some people get stuck because they don't have the special chart. And I say, grab a piece of paper and a pencil, or a pen. Who has pencils nowadays, right? And draw a line at the bottom about an inch up from the bottom of the page. And now draw another line at the top about an inch down from the top of the page. And then draw a bunch of lines in between there. You've just made a structural tension chart. Now let's go fill it in. So you don't need that special document, although it's nice and it's pretty and your lines are all straight, which is great. But any piece of paper, it's the process of getting it down where you are, where you want to be, and then the baby steps, the micro habits that move you towards that. So again, thank you all for your attention and for your participation this morning. And thank you, Alex.
Greg, can I add